Hello, everybody. I apologize for anyone who tried to get on the webinar and was unable to get on. I did email everyone with another link. A big technical problem. I'm just trying to roll with the punches, but we're recording it so you don't miss out. So my name is Michaela Lincoln Meltzer, and I'm here with Megan in beautiful Maui, one of my favorite places. And we're here today because we are very passionate about sharing with people what's lurking in your products, especially skincare. And we're passionate about healthy living, and we understand the importance. It's not just what we're eating and putting in our body, which is also really important. And we've become much more aware of the right carbs and the right fats. But it's the other component to that is really understanding what we put on our bodies, because they're really closely linked. And our skin, being our largest organ, everything's absorbed in under a minute. So it's really important that we understand what we are using on our bodies. And for me, especially, it was all about going through menopause and understanding that a lot of the symptoms come from inflammation, which we get from what we're eating and what we're using and putting on our bodies. Full disclosure, we are not medical practitioners. We are not scientists. We are merely people with a passion and a mission. Everything we have learned is from what we have read, we have studied and learned, and we've made it into a side business. But today we are not talking about products. That's for our Let's Talk series 2 next week. And by then I'll have technical issues straightened out. Today, we're really just going to be sharing information for you, but we will refer to Arbonne as a guide because we understand how passionate they are. We understand the quality and their high standards when it comes to putting ingredients in skincare. And we also know they have great results. So Megan, why don't you share with everyone watching and with Yole today why it's important for you to be using products that are good and toxic free and clean.
I think as a young person, shifting a mindset from like what's cheapest, what's more accessible, what's the fad, right? MAC, Sephora, switching from that mindset to like really analyzing and realizing how important it is to know what's going on my body and in my body, more so now than ever, because like I've always had acne issues and I never really understood like why I would have them. And I would still be going to a dermatologist and using their products, which I found out later on, like a lot of the stuff, not good for you at all. And then, now that I'm going to be trying to start a family, like I'm just so much more aware and focused on what I am putting on and in my body because of the amount of chemicals that are in the air, in the environment that we are just consuming every day. I think it is just that much more important now to focus on what we can control and like trying to limit those toxic or harmful or just, not really good for you ingredients and exposure to what you're putting on your skin and in your hair and in your body. I think is just so important, especially nowadays, because it's in everything. It's in everything we eat. It's in everything we put on, and we don't even realize it. And that's kind of the scary part. But I just think it's so important whatever stage you're in, right? Whether you're just beginning your health journey or in the middle or, starting to just shift it as the time goes on because the products have changed overall in our society right now. I just think it is that much more important to be aware because I think it's inevitable. It's hard to exclude any toxins or any chemicals or any bad things today's day and age, but just trying to limit it, I think is just so important.
I agree. It's limiting, exactly. Now, 85% of aging it's between 80 to 90% of aging is due to the environment. And it's only 10 to 20% that is due to genetics. So what this means is while we cannot slow down the aging process, we can help minimize all the effects. Now, I like to compare it to an apple falling from a tree. If we leave the apple in the elements under the sun and the rain and everything else, that apple's skin is going to shrivel really fast. But if we take that apple, we nurture it, we look after it, it's definitely going to last a lot longer. And our skin is the same. We can help minimize the effects of aging and our skin tone, but we want to be doing that with products that are toxin free. So Megan, why don't you share with us the astonishing number of chemicals that people use, specifically women, on a daily basis?
So women on average use 12 personal care products a day, which translates to about 168 chemicals every day. Women on average. Men use less. I don't know exactly how many care products, but they probably consume, or whatever the word is, about 85 chemicals a day. So 85 versus 168. And then young people especially are probably a little bit higher. More young teenagers who are starting to be more mindful, they tend to use a little bit more. So that 12 on average is probably even higher for younger women.
And so these chemicals, it's not just in makeup. People think I don't use makeup, it's fine. But I mean, where else are we finding all these chemicals?
Makeup, deodorant, toothpaste, shampoo, body wash, hand soap, face cream, hair dye, and even sunscreen.
Oh, sunscreen is really bad. And with sunscreen, it's ironic really, because we use it to prevent from getting skin cancer, but there are ingredients in it that actually cause cancer. So it's quite strange. I've even changed where I color my hair to a toxic-free organic dye. And even my nail polish now is toxic-free and vegan because of all these chemicals. It's all about lessening the amount that's going into our body. So these numbers always astonish me. So the EU ban around 1,400 toxic chemicals from their skincare, and they're considered quite the leaders in the skincare industry. In comparison, Canada and Australia ban around 300 to 400 toxic chemicals from their skincare. But the shocker is that the US ban only 11 toxic ingredients, and nothing has changed since the 1930s, which is absolutely astonishing to me. Now, there is a lot more awareness. There has been a lot of discussion about changing the laws, but can you imagine what we are using and putting on our bodies and what's going into our bloodstream? I never used to care what I was using. If I would go and have a facial, the esthetician would say, you know what, you need a mask, go buy this. And I would run out and I would buy it, not even thinking twice about what I was using. I did it because she recommended it to me. And yesterday, my husband shared with me an article by CNN who did a study on the best face moisturizer for every skin type. Olay Regenerist Micro Sculpting Cream was their top pick. And when I looked at that product, it had a list of ingredients. It was loaded with toxins, parabens, PEGs, alcohol. It was shocking. So it goes to show there's so much confusion. What is the consumer to believe, when a study is put out like that? A lot of these studies I'm very wary of because they're paid for by the cosmetic companies, and most of the products they had listed were sold by Sephora. So who knows, maybe Sephora had paid them, I don't know. But what really got me is this documentary Toxic Beauty. So if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it, and you will never put anything toxin on your skin again. So the skincare industry is highly unregulated. And what that means is that there are many ingredients that they're able to put into skincare that are untested or barely tested. In the US alone, the cosmetic industry is an $84 billion industry. It's massive. And people and senators in the past have tried to create legislation, but the cosmetic industry has so much power and so much money that they've been able to say, we're going to do a better job at regulating ourselves, which they haven't. So let's talk a little bit about Toxic Beauty, because Toxic Beauty, it delves into the lawsuit against Johnson & Johnson in regards to their use of talcum powder. Now, talcum powder has been used for years on babies, on children, and a lot of women use talcum powder after they shower or bath. Now, according to this documentary, and it's based not just on people talking, it's based on years of research, studies, and documents, that they knew, that Johnson & Johnson knew that talcum powder was carcinogenic way back in the 1960s. But there was never any warnings on their containers like there is on cigarettes and alcohol about the dangers of long-term use that can develop ovarian cancer. So it's shocking. It's such a shock to me to think that a company knew of something that was so dangerous and they've never done anything about it. Now, and the problem with ovarian cancer is when you get the symptoms, it's usually stage 4 by then. So the studies that were done in this documentary was a doctor did a study of women diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And the majority of these women had used talcum powder consistently on a regular basis. Now, talcum powder is a mined product that contains something called magnesium silicate, which can easily absorb asbestos, which we know is a known toxin, as well as talcum powder, the magnesium silicate contains heavy metals, which are also carcinogens. Now, there's also deodorants that have talc in them. So they used a technique to extract ovarian cancer materials from 75% of the cancer tumors studied, and they all contained talc particles. Now, one woman in this documentary, she had no family history of cancer of any description. She was not overweight, had never been on birth control pills, but the only consistent factor was she had used talcum powder since she was 16 years old consistently, and she was now in her 50s and had developed ovarian cancer. And it's kind of ironic because Johnson & Johnson has always been known as the family company, and all their baby products, at one point, it's changed. That has changed because it was loaded with parabens. And the FDA has allowed the cosmetic industry to self-police without putting any laws in place. And one of the reasons is because the cosmetic industry created a panel called the Cosmetic Ingredient Review. What they did was the industry funded a panel of scientists to review ingredients, but out of 10,000 ingredients they chose to review, only 11% were reviewed. So you really have to question what the hell the cosmetic companies are doing and why it's not being policed so much more. An interesting experiment in the movie was a young med student put herself an experiment. So for 24 hours, she used 0 products and had a urine test. And it came back normal, with the normal amount of toxins. Like Megan says, we breathe every day, so we are going to have some kind of toxins in our body. After 24 hours of using the products that she regularly uses, her urine showed she had a higher than average amount of phthalates in her body, which is crazy. So a lot of companies take out sometimes the parabens and phthalates, but replace them. And there was one ingredient I couldn't pronounce, it was like this long, but it was another toxin they had replaced it with. So even though our bodies can eliminate some of these chemicals, because that's the function of our liver, right? If we use them on a consistent basis, it's like, as the doctor said in the movie, we are marinating in chemicals. And that's what's going to cause problems down the road if we continue to use them. And it's these synthetic chemicals that interfere with hormonal action. So all these hormone disruptors, they're related to hormonal cancers, such as breast cancer, ovarian cancer, and even in men, testicular and prostate cancer. So Megan, why don't you share some of these lovely toxic chemicals with us and tell us a little bit about what they are and what they do to our bodies?
You got it. Yeah. So I'm only going to touch on a few because of time, and they're like big words. Did you want to go ahead and show the
Thank
grid?
you.
And then that way, you know, if you folks want to screenshot or take a picture with your phone, you can have this for reference. But basically, you know, these are things that we see in our products every day that we don't really know what they are. They're so big, they're so wordy, we don't really know what they mean, right? But if you look these up, it's kind of crazy what they actually are. So as Michaela had mentioned earlier, she had mentioned phthalates. So it's found in many products, usually not listed in labels, but it does damage like liver, kidneys, birth defects, decreased sperm count, and even early breast development in girls and boys, which I don't know if like, you know, you've followed like dairy and things like that right now. You know, they're just finding so many connections with the development of young women based on all these hormone disruptors, right? There's all these hormones in everything that we consume. So then it's affecting the development of young women and men. So phthalates are in like literally almost everything. But like, for instance, parabens, so used as preservatives, not always labeled, used in deodorants and other skincare products, have been found in breast cancer tumors and may contribute to sterility in males, hormone imbalance, and in females, and early puberty. So again, all of these hormone disruptors that we've been talking about. And, you know, we use a lot of these big words, but carcinogenic means that it helps cause cancer, right? So a lot of these chemicals that are in our daily products, they do increase the chances and development of cancer in our body. And then one that like I think you know, we don't really realize too. And for me, as someone who had dealt with acne, benzoyl peroxide, that was in every like skin face wash cream that I was given as a patient for who had acne issues, given to me by my dermatologist, benzoyl peroxide. So it literally, and I didn't know this, but it may act as a mutagen, produces DNA damage in human and other mammalian cells, toxic by inhalation, eye, skin, and respiratory irritant. So these things, you know, we're putting it on our skin, and I was doing it like as a face wash, as a cream every day, and you use it until it is gone, right? So like months at a time. And I was doing this over a really, really long period of time. And it really kind of blows my mind. And it's hard because I don't know, you know, then versus now, there's so many factors involved. But since I started switching to chemical or non-toxic chemicals, products that are clean and plant-based, I have had way less acne issues since, you know, the years and years that I was using so many different products from dermatologists, right? Doctors giving me these products to use to help me. But a lot of times, you know, what we don't realize is like for sunscreen, like you had mentioned before, there's all of these toxic ingredients in there. We're using it to try to protect ourselves from something, but in the end, we're actually hurting ourselves by adding all these other chemicals into our system through our largest organ, right? Through our skin. And even, and Michaela, if you can help me remember what it's called, but what's the thing that makes suds in shampoo?
Sodium lauryl sulfate.
So that one, right?
Oh,
Like we love that it lathers and it helps with our hair and it makes us feel clean, but it's really, really not good for us. And it's being soaked in through our pores, through our scalp and into our system. And that's why a lot of times these more natural shampoos, they don't really lather too well. You have to really use a lot of water and scrub and rinse really, really well. But that's why, because that chemical, that ingredient that creates the suds, that creates the lather, that's what is really not good for us. And you know, we don't know, it's in everything we use. You know, I mean, I was using like Tresemme and what's the other one that I used to use?
Pantene.
Like, you know what I mean? Like I used to use all of those and didn't even think once. All I wanted was the result, right? I wasn't thinking about what it was actually doing to my skin and to my body that whole time.
You know, I'm going to add to this a very interesting fact that I learned was our bodies don't, parabens are one of the most common, and you'll see a lot of companies saying paraben free, but there were parabens in this cream that they CNN rated as the top cream, right? And our body doesn't produce parabens, but they're finding them in breast cancer cells. And they're saying now the industrial process that these chemicals are used to make up is the same process as using chemicals for chemical warfare and biological weapons. Like it's just insane what goes on that we, the consumer, are unaware of. So, and the same thing with fragrance, right? They don't have to disclose what's in their perfumes, and often there's a lot of toxins in fragrance.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. So now that we know what not to use, what then, because it's very confusing, what then should we look for in products so we know what's right?
So I think, you know, kind of like how I touched on before, it is really hard to be totally, you know, chemical free. But the idea, right, is to transition and try to replace as many harmful chemicals and you know, these toxic ingredients with less harmful or even just natural, more natural. So as we had kind of talked about before, the UK, which is like the leading, you know, industry for banning harmful ingredients, right? They ban about 1,400 toxic ingredients. And here in the United States, we only ban, what is it now, 11 still? Or
it's 11, it's still 11, yeah.
It's still 11. So the US only bans 11 ingredients in our products. That is just, I mean, it's not surprising because, you know, but it's just still dumbfounding.
It's very scary, yeah.
Very scary. And, you know, like in the UK, you know, they have to prove that it's safe in order to be used. But here in the US, we have to prove that it's harmful in order not to be used, which is just, not okay. But what I love, is looking at looking for more plant-based ingredients, right? So that's one thing you can do. You can look for plant-based ingredients. If you're looking at a label and you're not recognizing, what's the harmful ingredient, what might be a more plant-based ingredient, you can always obviously Google it. But one thing that I think helps is looking at the company, looking at their mission statement, looking at what their policies are. That'll give you a good stepping stone to see if they're a company that will give you products that are that they're looking to actually help you and not harm you. Also, you can make sure that the people who are testing these products and verifying that they're not harmful are being backed by some, other company, right? Because if it's just them stating that their ingredients are safe, then how can we trust them? They're obviously biased, right? So having a scientific advisory board that brings guidance and expertise, having if people on social media right now, you're always following people. If you hear them talk about the different kinds of products that they use and how they know that it's safe, that's also a way that you can make sure that it's being tested appropriately and that it's approved scientifically and by a different, right, an outsourced company verifying that the products are safe. Also scientific testing, right? We want to make sure that these products are safe, that someone is testing them. And like I mentioned before, looking at a company that uses an outsource, right, a third party to review their products and to determine whether or not it's safe. So that'll be less biased and you can trust that a little bit more. And then obviously looking at, like I mentioned, at companies that have high clean standards. If they care about the people, they'll care about what they're putting in their products. So, again, as Michaela had mentioned, we love Arbonne, and that's because they are a transparent company. They're a B corporation, which means that they are committed to reducing the introduction of harmful chemicals to the environment, not only in their packaging, in their ingredients, just everything about it, reducing the carbon footprint. But they are just such a transparent company that you can look at every level, even their fragrance, right? Me and Michaela had one time asked, we had done some research into Arbonne to figure out what is fragrance for us, because when we look at that at other companies and other labels, that's kind of scary. What does that mean? What's in there? Why aren't you putting it in there, right? Well, because there's limited space, yes, companies do say fragrance to kind of limit the amount of ingredients that's listed there. However, for Arbonne as an example, their fragrances, everything is
it's not natural
plant-based.
or plant-based, yeah.
Natural or plant-based, sorry, total brain fart. Yeah. So they're totally plant-based, and that's what we want to look for. So even as an example, retinol versus bucanol, right? So right now, Arbonne is transitioning from using retinol in products, which has always been, something that everybody's used. It's been a more less harmful ingredient in products that works. But since then, they have found that bucanol is actually better for you and it's less harmful. And it produces better results. So just looking for the replacement for those ingredients, right? So even, and I'm so bad with all these scientific terms, all these ingredients, but the one that lathers, right? The soap that lathers, there's plant-based alternatives to all of these ingredients, right? So anything that's harmful from that list that we had showed you before, there is a more natural plant-based version of that. And that's what you should be looking for when you're looking at products and what's in them. And making sure that they are safer for you. Again, there are chemicals, good and bad, right? There are ingredients, good and bad, but what you're trying to do is limit the toxic ones, limiting the harmful chemicals and ingredients, and trying to replace them with plant-based, more natural alternatives. Nothing wrong with science. It's good that they're using the best of science and nature to create products that not only are good for us, but that actually do what they're supposed to do. And there are so many more organizations and product producers that are doing this now. It's not just a trend, it's a lifestyle that people are really trying to advocate for now. And there's just so many more options out there than Pantene, then L'Oreal, right? All the, MAC, there's so many other options out there now. And we're in a really good time to start being more conscientious of what we're putting in and on our bodies.
I agree. And I think one of the other most important things about Arbonne that I really like as a company is that number 1400 that the EU ban, not just that it's not just the UK, it's the EU. Arbonne voluntarily bans 2,000 ingredients. So they're really at the forefront of really understanding and moving forward of taking out toxins, replacing them, like Megan said. And also when you have certifications, like we're vegan and gluten-free and non-GMO, there's a lot of standards that you have to live up to in order to get those certifications. So you want to look for a company that also has certification requirements, because that's going to just enhance their standards and quality. Of course, you want a product that works as well. Not everything natural is good and not everything natural works for you, but the blend of science and nature, really, we know with Arbonne firsthand the incredible results it has. And as Megan was saying, limiting our toxins, especially when we're using things on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's the most important thing, is that day-to-day basis. So these are some of the ingredients that Arbonne says no to. And so I can see the MCT. I can't even pronounce that. If you can't pronounce it, you don't want to eat it and you don't want to put it on your body, right? So, you know what? We really hope that you got some value out of this. And we really wanted you to understand that it's really important to become your own health advocate and really just start being more aware of what you're putting on your body, not just what you're eating, because we've become really good at what we're eating. And so that's what we wanted to share with you today. We will be back next week with no technical issues, I promise. And we're just going to share with you our favorite toxin-free products that do work. And it'll be in time for the holidays as well, because with this worldwide shipping problem, it's a good thing to start shopping early this year, because I think otherwise people will not be getting what they want for Christmas. So that's it. So any last words, Megan?
I think right now, it's really hard to feel like you can afford, not just financially, right, but just like with time and with energy and with resources, to look for more natural, more less harmful products. But I just think that it is so important. Again, I don't think there's a way to completely eliminate. I don't think that there's a way to be completely, toxin, chemical free, right? I think though the idea, the hope is that we become less consistent with those kinds of products. Like you said, it's about the everyday things, right? Most people don't wear makeup every day anymore. Thank you, COVID. But even then, it's like, okay, but then what about your shampoo? What about your deodorant? The aluminum. Like, we're just starting to realize all of these ingredients that are in our products that are just so harmful for us. And we won't know, right, until years and years and years down the line, when it's already too late. Yeah. So better to start now. There's no better time. It's never too late. And like you said, being your own health advocate. If you don't know, ask. If you don't know, look it up, right? We have so much available at our fingertips. And I think that, we can be better about replacing these more toxic, harmful ingredients and products that we're using, if we're just willing to take a little bit of effort. And I think kind of just like with eating healthier, right, and eating cleaner, yes, right now it might be a little bit more expensive. It might be having to go to different markets and looking for the best, or going to a farmer's market in the middle of, and getting more natural products. But I think it'll be worth it in the long run, right? You sacrifice a little bit now in the hopes that in the future you will have to sacrifice your health and your wellness less, right? So keeping that in mind, because as a young person with, in high school, college, when I think about how my mindset has shifted, I'd much rather spend a little bit more money now, even though it kind of hurts, paying I don't know, $16 a bottle for shampoo when you can go to the store and get it for $6, right? Or whatever.
But it lasts longer. That's the other thing too, right? So actually you could buy 2 of those bottles and still it'll take you the same amount of time as if you bought one, because You only need to use a
If
little.
you do your research and you learn how to use it appropriately, right? Because so many people do buy these things and they're like, it doesn't work for me. I don't know how to use it. It didn't work. It didn't work. But it's like, okay, but did you read the instructions? Did you ask someone? Because there is a difference with using more natural products versus the products that we use every day.
Yeah, I agree. So I think it's just important what we eat, what we put in our bodies, learn, become more aware, and we hope to see you next week. And I apologize again about the technical difficulty for those who had registered and were unable to hop on. So until next week, stay safe, be careful what you're eating and what you're using, and thank you again. Bye, everyone.